Welcome to Bookish Mind Podcast, Season 4, Episode 2. Today, we explore one of the most transformative ideas from Atomic Habits by James Clear. How your habits don't just change your behavior, they actually shape your identity. It often feels like we're fighting an uphill battle when it comes to habits. Good ones are just so hard to stick with, right?
Right.
And the bad ones, they seem to cling to us forever. This deep dive into James Clear's work really shines a light on why that might be, and it offers a surprising shift in perspective.
Absolutely. We often find ourselves frustrated, maybe thinking we just lack willpower or something.
Yeah, exactly.
But what we're going to unpack today suggests our struggle isn't just about discipline. It's about something far deeper, our very sense of self.
That resonates so much. So let's dig in. Why is it so easy to repeat those old patterns, the bad habits, yet incredibly difficult to build new positive ones?
Well, the core idea we're exploring today is that we're often trying to change the wrong thing.
The wrong thing, or maybe in the wrong way. What's truly fascinating is how the source highlights this. It shows that even with sincere effort, bursts of motivation.
We've all been there.
Right. Habits like exercise or meditation, they become a hassle after just a few days for many people. Yet unwanted habits, like reaching for junk food or endless scrolling on our phones, they seem to stick around forever. It suggests a fundamental misunderstanding of how real, lasting change actually works.
Okay, so to really grasp this, Clear gives us this brilliant analogy. Imagine change occurring at 3 layers, kind of like an onion.
Yeah, the onion analogy. The first layer, the outermost one, is outcome change.
Okay.
This is all about your results.
Yeah.
Losing weight, publishing that book, winning a championship. Most goals you set probably fall into this category. It's what you get.
Right, the tangible result. Then, one layer deeper, we have process change. This is about your actual habits and systems, isn't it? Like starting a new gym routine, decluttering your workspace, maybe developing a meditation practice. Exactly. This is where most of the habits we try to build live. It's the what you do.
Got it.
And finally, the deepest, most foundational layer is identity change. This is about your belief.
Your core beliefs.
Yeah, your worldview, your self-image, your judgments about yourself and others. This is where our core assumptions and biases reside. It's the what you believe.
So just to recap, outcomes are what you get, processes are what you do, and identity is what you believe. Clear says all these levels are useful, but the direction of change is absolutely crucial.
That's the key point. Many people, and honestly I've done this myself in the past, they start by focusing solely on outcomes, what they want you to achieve.
Makes sense on the surface?
It does, but this leads to what James Clear describes as outcome-based habits. You're focused on the finish line.
The powerful alternative, and what this deep dive really champions, is identity-based habits.
Right.
With this approach, you begin by focusing on who you wish to become. It completely shifts the starting point. What really stands out to you when you consider that distinction?
For me, it's about shifting from a what mindset to a who mindset.
What versus who?
Instead of just aiming to do something like, I want to run a marathon, you aim to be someone. Like, I want to be a runner.
Ah, yeah.
That internal shift can be incredibly powerful because it realigns your actions with your deepest sense of self.
Let's look at a powerful example, Clear uses. 2 people resisting a cigarette. The fourth person says, no thanks, I'm trying to quit.
Okay, that sounds perfectly reasonable on the surface. We hear that all the time.
We do.
But the insight here, and it's quite subtle, is that this person still believes they are a smoker. Who's just trying to be something else. Their behavior, saying no, is separate from their core belief about themselves.
Now, compare that to the second person who says, no thanks, I'm not a smoker.
See the difference?
It's such a small difference in words, just a few words, but it signals a massive shift in identity. Smoking was part of their former life, maybe, but it's not their current one. They no longer identify as someone who smokes.
Exactly. This illustrates how often people overlook identity change when they try to improve themselves. They set goals, they define actions.
The processes?
Right, the processes and outcomes without truly considering the underlying beliefs. And what happens? Their old identity unconsciously sabotages their new plans. It's subtle, but critical.
It reminds me of the idea that behind every system of actions, there's a system of beliefs. Like you wouldn't expect widespread voting behavior in a dictatorship, right?
Not at all.
Because it's just not aligned with the system's core identity of absolute authority.
And that applies directly to us as individuals, too. Behavior that is incongruent with your self-identity simply won't last.
Yeah.
It feels wrong somehow.
So if your identity is someone who consumes, maybe loves shopping,
You'll naturally struggle to save money, even if you set a savings goal.
or if you see yourself as someone who prioritizes immediate comfort above all else.
Then, exercise will feel like a constant uphill battle, a chore you have to do rather than something you are. It's incredibly difficult to change habits if you don't address the underlying beliefs that drove your past behavior.
Okay, the story of Brian Clark, the entrepreneur, it really brings this home. He chewed his fingernails for years.
A classic ingrained habit.
Totally.
Yeah.
And he managed to stop through sheer willpower, which is impressive in itself. But here's where it gets really interesting, identity-wise.
Right, so he stopped the chewing, but then he asked his wife to schedule his first ever manicure.
A manicure.
He initially thought maybe the monetary cost, paying for it, would be the deterrent to stop him going back to chewing.
But it wasn't that.
No. What happened was the manicure made his fingers look nice. Actually nice. And the manicurist even praised his healthy nails.
Positive reinforcement.
Exactly. Suddenly he was proud of his fingernails, something he'd never felt before.
And that pride made all the difference. He never chewed his nails again.
Never again.
So this wasn't just about stopping a behavior, the chewing. It was about adopting a whole new identity. Someone who takes pride in caring for their nails.
And what's fascinating there is that the ultimate form of intrinsic motivation, the drive from within, it emerges when a habit becomes part of your identity.
Okay.
It's one thing to say, I'm the type of person who wants to be healthy. It's something very, very different to say, I'm the type of person who is healthy.
That feels more solid.
It is. The more pride you have in a particular aspect of your identity, the more naturally motivated you become to maintain the habits associated with it. You want to keep proving it to yourself.
This highlights that true behavior change, the kind that really sticks, is fundamentally identity change. Motivation might get you started,
The initial spark.
but identity is what makes it stick long term.
Yeah.
This means we should probably reframe our goals entirely.
Exactly. The goal isn't just to, say, read a book. The goal is to become a reader.
Okay, I like that.
The goal isn't just to run a marathon. The goal is to become a runner.
Become a runner.
The goal isn't just to learn an instrument. The goal is to become a musician.
This completely shifts the focus, doesn't it? From an external achievement, like crossing a finish line or finishing a book,
Right.
to an internal transformation. It's about who you embody day to day.
And your behaviors are typically a reflection of that identity, whether you're conscious of it or not. What you do is usually a strong indication of the type of person you believe yourself to be.
Is there research on this?
Yeah, there is. Research, for instance, has shown that people who identified as being a voter were significantly more likely to actually vote
Interesting.
than those who simply claimed voting was an action they wanted to perform. The identity made the difference.
So if your behavior and identity are truly aligned, you're not really pursuing behavior change anymore, are you?
Not in the same struggling way. You're simply acting like the type of person you already believe yourself to be.
Which makes doing the right thing, the desired habit, feel easy, almost effortless.
It becomes natural.
Now, you mentioned this identity-shaping power is powerful, but it's also a double-edged sword.
It really is.
While it's incredible for self-improvement, building those positive identities, it can also be a significant barrier. Think about those common negative self-identities we sometimes adopt.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm terrible with directions, or I'm just not a morning person.
I'm bad at remembering names. I'm always late. We tell ourselves these stories.
All the time.
And when you repeat these stories to yourself for years, maybe decades, it's easy for them to slide into these mental grooves, right? We just accept them as fact.
Like concrete.
Pretty much. And over time, you actually begin to resist certain actions because that's not who I am. You create this powerful internal pressure to maintain your existing self-image, even if it's negative.
You might even unconsciously find ways to prove yourself right, like getting lost again or hitting snooze.
Exactly. You avoid contradicting that ingrained belief.
So the more deeply a thought or action is tied to your identity, the harder it becomes to change it.
Absolutely. This identity conflict is often the single biggest barrier to positive change. It doesn't matter if we're talking about individuals, teams, or even whole societies.
A good habit might make perfect rational sense, but if it conflicts with your perceived identity, you'll struggle, maybe even unconsciously resist putting it into action.
Yeah, in the long run, our self-image can really get in the way of sticking with good habits. And this is why we can't get too attached to one fixed version of our identity. Progress actually requires unlearning.
Unlearning.
Continuously editing our beliefs, upgrading, and expanding who we think we are. It has to be an ongoing evolution, not a fixed state.
Okay, that makes sense. So if our beliefs and our worldview are so darn important, where do they actually come from? How is identity formed?
Well, clarifies that your identity doesn't just emerge out of nowhere. It actually emerges out of your habits.
Out of the habits themselves.
Yes. You're not born with preset beliefs about being tidy or studious. Every belief, positive or negative, is learned and conditioned through experience, primarily through repeated actions.
So more precisely, our habits are how we sort of embody our identity.
That's a great way to put it. When you make your bed each day, you embody the identity of an organized person. When you write each day, you embody a creative person. When you train regularly, you embody an athletic person.
Oh.
The more you repeat a behavior, the more you reinforce the identity associated with that behavior. It's fascinating, actually. The word identity itself comes from Latin words.
Oh, really?
Yeah, meaning being. And repeatedly. So your identity is literally your repeated beingness.
Wow, repeated beingness. I like that. And you only truly believe your current identity because you have proof of it, right? Evidence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You need evidence. If you go to church every Sunday for 20 years, you have accumulated strong evidence of being religious.
Makes sense.
If you study biology every night, you have hard evidence of being studious. Clear himself talks about his own journey becoming a writer. It wasn't overnight. He became one by publishing articles regularly, by doing the habit of writing.
He built the evidence.
He built the evidence. And while other experiences, big life events certainly influence your self-image, habits are usually the most important factor simply because of their frequency.
They happen day in, day out.
Right. The effect of one-off experiences, good or bad, tends to fade over time. But the effect of habits gets reinforced constantly. This means your habits contribute most of the concrete evidence that shapes who you believe you are.
So in this way, the process of building habits is quite literally the process of becoming yourself.
It really is.
And this isn't about snapping your fingers and suddenly becoming a new person. It sounds much more gradual.
Very gradual. It's an evolution, not a revolution. We change bit by bit, day by day, habit by habit. Each habit you perform is like a little suggestion to yourself.
A suggestion.
Yeah, like, hey, maybe this is who I am. Maybe I am an organized person.
Okay, and Clear uses another great metaphor here, votes.
Yes, the votes. Think of it this way. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become.
So each page you write
Is a vote for being a writer.
each workout,
Is a vote for being an athlete.
each healthy meal.
Is a vote for being a healthy person. No single vote will transform your beliefs overnight, of course.
Right. One vote doesn't win an election.
Exactly. But as those votes build up, day after day, you accumulate this irrefutable evidence of your new identity. This is how small habits can make such a profound difference. They provide that crucial, consistent evidence. That's the real power, the paradox of small improvements.
Of course, the flip side is true, too. Bad habits are also votes.
Absolutely. Every time you choose to perform a bad habit, maybe procrastinate or eat junk food, it's a vote for that version of yourself.
But the key is you don't need to be perfect.
Not at all.
Well,
You just need to win the majority vote. It doesn't matter if you cast a few votes for a bad behavior here and there or miss a workout. Your goal is simply to win the majority of the time, to have the evidence lean towards your desired identity.
because new identities require new evidence. If you keep casting the same old votes you've always cast.
You're going to get the same result, the same identity you've always had. The math just works out that way.
Okay, so this is all great conceptually.
Yeah.
How do we actually put this into practice? How do we start building an identity?
Well, Clear gives us a pretty simple, practical two-step process for changing your identity.
Okay, step one.
Step 1, decide the type of person you want to be.
Who do I want to be?
And step 2, prove it to yourself with small wins, consistent small actions.
All right, let's break that down. Step 1, decide the type of person you want to be. What if you're not sure?
That's a fair question. If you're unsure, Clear suggests starting with the results you want. Maybe you want those six-pack abs, or you want to learn French.
The outcome.
Start with the outcome, then work backward. Ask yourself, who is the type of person that could get the outcome I want?
Okay, so if I want to write a book.
Who's the type of person who writes a book? Probably someone who is consistent, maybe reliable, maybe dedicated.
Right.
So your focus shifts from the outcome, writing the book, to becoming the type of person who embodies those qualities, consistency, reliability. That becomes the identity goal.
I see. You define the identity needed for the outcome.
Precisely. And once you have a handle on that desired identity, you move to step 2, taking small, consistent steps, small wins to reinforce it.
Like casting those votes we talked about.
Exactly. Claire shares a great story about a friend who lost over 100 pounds. Her secret:
What was it?
she constantly asked herself all day long, what would a healthy person do?
Simple question.
Simple but powerful. She used this question as her guide. Would a healthy person walk or take a cab? Would a healthy person order a burrito or a salad?
So she was constantly aligning her actions with that identity.
Yes. She figured if she just acted like a healthy person long enough, eventually she would become that person. And guess what? She was right. The identity followed the actions.
Wow. This concept of identity-based habits,
Yeah.
it introduces this really powerful idea of feedback loops, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Your habits shape your identity.
By providing the evidence.
Right. And then your identity, who you believe you are, shapes your habits.
By making certain actions feel natural or unnatural.
Exactly. It's a beautifully reinforcing two-way street.
And while habit formation itself is always kind of a feedback loop, cue, craving, response, reward, the critical insight here is letting your values, your principles, and most importantly, your desired identity drive that loop.
Yes, rather than just chasing external results like weight loss or book sales.
Yeah.
The focus should always remain on becoming that type of person, not simply on getting a particular outcome. That's the sustainable path.
So ultimately, the true question this whole deep dive asks us and asks you listening is, are you becoming the type of person you want to become?
Mm-hmm.
The very first step isn't necessarily about what specific action to take or how exactly to do it.
Although those are important later.
Right. But the first step is clarifying who you want to be. Without that clear North Star, that identity, your quest for change can feel directionless, like a boat without a rudder.
And the encouraging part is you truly have the power to change your beliefs about yourself. Your identity is not set in stone. It's malleable.
It's not fixed.
No. In every single moment, you have a choice. You can choose habits that reinforce the identity you want. The power lies in the actions you choose today.
You know, building better habits, when you look at it this way, isn't really about littering your day with life hacks or just achieving those external measures of success, like earning more money or losing weight.
Although those things can certainly happen as a result.
It can be nice side effects. But fundamentally, these identity-based habits are not about having something. They are about becoming someone.
Well said.
They are the direct channel through which you develop and solidify your deepest beliefs about yourself. You literally become your habits.
So as we wrap up, what does this all mean for you, our listener? Maybe consider this today. If every small action you take is indeed a vote for the person you are becoming, what kind of person are your daily habits voting for right now?